just for women. And I have been working with women from all the continents except for Antarctica since 2009. So today I want to talk about how you have these chronic symptoms, and yet maybe you've tried everything. You know, you've gone and seen your doctor, you've tried prescriptions, you've tried salves and healing ointments and supplements, and nothing's working, and you're frustrated, and the symptoms keep on coming up. I want to specifically speak about symptoms like related around female sexuality, you know, and sex and intimacy. So for some women, this might look like vaginal dryness or pain with urination or pain with sex, or maybe something's going on with the tatas. You know, maybe there's breast cysts, breast cancer, abnormal pap smears, so many different things related to our female sexuality, our uterus, our ovaries. So all things are related around female sexuality and female health. I really want to address that today. And so sometimes I will tell you there is a physical component, right? And yet I believe that everything is energy. Research is showing this. You know, physics shows us that everything is vibrating energy. And whether or not you follow more of the metaphysical viewpoint on healing and health, I'm here to tell you, especially if you're having female kinds of symptoms and everything else hasn't worked, it's time to listen in and considering this thought. And this thought is that there could be something going on that hasn't been dealt with emotionally or energetically. I'm going to use my own personal experience to share what I mean by this. And so I am a woman of course I'm a woman, maybe not, maybe it's not so clear. But anyway, in my early 20s, I contracted herpes, and it was devastating. And then there was a long period of time where the symptoms would keep on coming up and up and up, and it hurt to pee, and it hurt to urinate when the symptoms would come, and it would be itchy and frustrating. And so maybe for you, it's not symptoms of herpes. Maybe, as I said, maybe every time you have sex, maybe it's painful, or maybe you have breast cysts, which I also have a history of that. Maybe there's a history of, you know, anything, really anything and everything around female health. These symptoms come up, and it can be nerve-wracking, you know, especially if you're trying to do everything right. So early on in my journey, I was influenced by several people. One woman who is no longer with us, her name is Louise Hay, and she really looked at the energetics of physical symptoms and how they related to certain emotions and certain opportunities for healing. In fact, she healed herself of cervical cancer, and she shares these journeys both there's a documentary about her. She's written several books, and she really was one of the first people that I discovered that this idea of you being able to heal whatever it is that ails you. There's another book that was of great influence for me, and it was called The Healing Power of Illness. You might want to write that down. The Healing Power of Illness. And this book, it's not even in print anymore. So if you do find yourself a copy, grab it, snag it, and read it. And once again, it's this idea of everything's connected to everything. And a lot of times there's certain things that we need to learn on this physical journey of health and healing. So I'll tell you how most women, especially in today's society, how many women handle these chronic symptoms is they just look for the answers outside of themselves. Okay, so they look for the magic pill that's going to make all the difference and make the symptoms go away. And sometimes that works. Sometimes that works on the surface level. But in my training as a chiropractor, I've always wanted to go deeper, like get to the source of the problem. And so going back to my story is that I found a regimen that really was able to help rebuild my immunity And there was a time period, a long time period, where I didn't have any symptoms. And when I look back, it was also a period of time when I didn't have symptoms that I wasn't dating anyone. And what I found was, as soon as I started dating someone, like even if it had only been on one date or 2 dates, but it was someone I was really interested in, sure enough, the symptoms would come on. Now, some people might say that is because of stress and the stress response. Being that I'm a woman with a history of herpes, that in the back part of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, wow, someday I'm going to need to have this conversation if this is a relationship that's going to go anywhere. Okay. And for other women, it could be another STD that you're challenged by, or other kind of symptoms that we've talked about. And so, but what I noticed is this emotional component is that when I would start dating, symptoms would arise. In times of not dating and lower stress, no symptoms. So I started to think, wow, what's really going on here? What hasn't been dealt with? And I also started to talk to other women about their female health challenges and getting curious what else could be going on, especially if you've tried a lot of things in the physical realm, ailments or physical realms for supplements, and maybe chiropractic, maybe acupuncture, and things just aren't working. So many women will look outside of themselves, and sometimes those outside things do recorrect and rebalance the body. But what if that doesn't work? Then it's time to turn inward. It's time to turn inward and get quiet and really start to investigate what are some of the unexpressed emotions that could be going on. And I actually have a 4-step process that helps so much. As busy women, the first thing that we need to do, stop. Just stop. Stop and be still. Be still with your body. Be still with your symptoms and your emotions, and really be present. So what that might look like is something more in the form of meditation, where you're just going to sit for a period of time. Start small, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, work up 15 minutes, and just be with what is. And begin to move to step 2. Once you're sitting and you're still, step 2 is to ask. Ask whatever it is that you believe in, divine guidance, God, nature, spirit, angels, fairies, whatever it is. But ask for guidance. I actually most recently had an experience just last week in the mountains when I went through this 4-step process. I'm going to tell you that in just a minute, but I want to tell you all 4 steps. And I'll tell you what happened. So first step, stop. Second step, get curious, ask. Ask for some guidance of what are your symptoms all about? What could you be contributing that you don't even know? Step 3 is really important. Listen. Listen to the divine guidance that you receive. And this might come in different forms. I call it golden tongue wisdom. And basically what that is you are receiving breadcrumbs of signals and signs along your path of healing. And if you ignore them, then you're not able to implement them. Start listening after you ask. So stop, ask, listen. That 3rd step is so important. And in that, a friend might say something, or you hear a certain song that reminds you of something, or something in nature shows up as a symbol, like a butterfly, the symbol of transformation, or another animal. But this golden tongue wisdom is this idea that you are connected to something much greater than yourself on this healing journey. And if you would just stop, ask, and listen, you'll begin to receive this guidance. We move on to step 4. Step 4 is all about integration. So what this means is after you've gone through step 1, step 2, step 3, this could be over a period of days and weeks, hopefully not months. But step 4 is really about integrating and practicing what kind of guidance you're receiving. Now, within the community I've been focusing on for so many years, these women have had a lot of what I call sexual shame. This is shame because you've been sexually abused, or you have an STD, or you have a problem with sex, or you have a problem with intimacy. So there's a lot of shame, or you're embarrassed about your physical form as a woman. Okay, you feel to this or to that. My boobs are too big, my boobs are too small, my butt's too big, my butt's too small, that whole thing, right? There's a lot of shaming around our sexuality. So when we're receiving the guidance, it's important that we begin to integrate that guidance. And often, if you go through all 4 steps, what's amazing is often the body will realign itself into balance. It'll realign itself into balance. So one of the energies that often comes up, so let's say you have some symptoms. One of the first go-tos I would tell you to go to is jump online and Google Louise Hay and whatever your symptom is, and just see what it might be related to. And so that often can give some insight beyond the physicality of things. So just this week I was up in the mountains, and this isn't related to a sexual kind of symptoms. I already told you about those, that it used to be whenever I started dating that I would have symptoms. And the healing that needed to happen, it was a couple different things. I needed to heal my shame, and I had to forgive myself for what I thought I had done wrong. And I had to forgive intimate partners from my past. I also still had to forgive some sexual shaming around the sexual abuse that I endured. So forgiveness is a huge one, and shifting shame to love is what can be so healing. And so anyway, I can tell you that after I learned this, that the symptoms started really calming down, because I got more comfortable in my own body, in my own skin, as a woman having carried sexual shame. So going back to just last week. So just last week, I was up in the mountains, and I woke up one morning and my right shoulder was, it was so tight. And when I would take a deep breath, it would be like shooting pains in my shoulder, it literally taking my breath away. So the first thing I did was stop. And that is, I've been training for a half marathon, and I decided, you know what? If I can't take a deep breath, this is not a time to power through it, because I could injure myself. And so that was the first thing I did, is I was like, okay, I'm not going to train. And I decided to meditate. That was also part of the stopping. What was the second step? Write this down, ladies. Stop. Second step, ask. I asked for some guidance, because after I'd woken up with that sharp, sharp pain, I actually went and saw a massage therapist. And she spent an hour and a half with me, and it was beautiful. And one of the things she said in the massage was, what is it that might be taking your breath away? And I went, I don't know. So after the massage, the pain really didn't change. In fact, she said my right shoulder was not much different than my left as far as tightness. So I went back to where I was staying, and I went into a deep, deep meditation. And today, I don't have time to tell you the whole meditation and what came through, because it was amazing. But what I discovered was what was taking my breath away is I actually went right back to my birth. And in the birthing process, after being born, I remember looking out into these bright, bright lights. And I felt so vulnerable. Like I was a little infant having just come into this world and solely reliant on my mama. And in this memory of meditation, I can remember looking into my mother's eyes and seeing an ocean of love and security and safety. And I remember being swaddled and just held tight. And in that moment, I realized this outside world so bright, it was really scary. And yet I trusted my mother would protect me. And so what was required is some forgiveness of my mother for being human. And as a mama, we can't protect our young from all of the challenges and suffering that come through being human. And so part of the bright lights too is I'm expanding my business. My business is really taking off, and I'm working with helping more and more and more women find love and feminine power and falling in love with their own bodies and becoming these magnets to men, the men that they have always thought that was part of their future, their dream, their love life. So anyway, my business is taking off, and with this, I'm more in the limelight. And quite honestly, I wasn't so comfortable with that. And so it was through this journey. You might not get all of these bells and whistles and all the stories. I don't expect that you necessarily would, right? It came through for me is that I needed to forgive my mother for not being able to protect me from things that happened to me just by being human. And so it was a deeper level of forgiveness. And knowing that it's okay and it's safe, even when I'm in the spotlight and I might screw up on how I talk or say the wrong things, that all I need to do is focus on love and service, and I will be held just like my mama held me the day that I was born. So for you, stop, ask. Here's what's amazing. After I had that vision, there's some other things I don't have time today to go into, but the pain went away. Not 100%. It's kind of amped up again later in the day, but within a couple days, that pain was totally gone. Why? Because I had done the internal work that was related to the physical symptoms. And that massage therapist was the golden tongue wisdom of what is taking your breath away. Well, what was taking my breath away is I'm making big plans to serve thousands more women. And it was taking my breath away. And the bright lights of being in the spotlight as a leader was intimidating. So my physical body healed that part of me that was an old wound, okay? And so I have many stories of women that I've worked with that they have physical symptoms, many of them related to their experience of intimacy and relationships. And those physical symptoms keep on showing up. Why? Because the core emotional challenge hasn't been dealt with. The self-love, the forgiveness, the letting go, the surrendering. These are all of the emotions that are part of this healing journey. So in doing so, in doing this four-step process, you might get insight that actually is, more physical, like slow down, more physical, like, take the time to verbalize healthy boundaries. It can come up in many different ways. But again, four-step process, the thing I want you to get today. Stop, ask, listen, integrate. Okay? And you'll start becoming your own OBGYN. Not that it replaces him or her, but start to really take your health and the responsibility even for your love life that can be related to your health. Take it into your own hands. You can heal yourself. with this 4-step process. Now, that's not to say that sometimes physical things like supplements or massage work or some other things might also be part of your game plan. But listen for the guidance. It's there. It's always there, with a willingness to listen, with a willingness to feel uncomfortable, with a willingness to be scared, to be loved unconditionally by a man. That's scary stuff, right? To be able to be vulnerable like an infant. So that's my 4-step process, and I hope that it empowers you. And before I wrap up the day, I want to share something so excited that happened today, just before the call. In fact, I would have made it a focus of the call today had I known it was going to happen. So one of the women that I've worked with, I've known her name's Sheila, and I've known her, I was asking her today, known her since 2015. And I can remember when I first met her, and she was really challenged. She was having a lot of physical symptoms. She was having physical low back pain, right? And she had been recently diagnosed with a sexual health condition, and she was devastated, absolutely devastated, didn't know where to turn. I remember part of her step out was actually beginning to volunteer. But I think it was the second time I met her within a group setting, a healing environment where we were supporting women to reclaim their feminine power and to heal and to find love again. She remembers distinctly me calling her out on something. And in that moment, she felt really vulnerable because I was asking her to really own her story, really own it. And she shared how vulnerable that felt. And I remember her crying, but standing in that place of wanting what was best for her. And at that time in her life, she thought love was not possible. There was no way, she thought, that anyone would ever love her. And today, after a couple years of really doing a lot of personal growth and development, she invested in one of my programs early on, and she went through that program. She married herself. She also went on retreat with me with a group of women. We did a lot of deep work around unleashing that feminine power so that you can heal these pieces that keep on keeping you from finding love and intimacy. And today, let me show you over here. I have flowers because I met today for the first time. Sheila and her fiance took me out to lunch, and they're getting married next October. And she gives me a card sitting on the table, and this is what it says: "Will you marry us?" And I just started crying. They want me to be the officiant for their wedding. And she told me that had she not done the inner work with me, that she knows that she would have never found Steve. She knows that she had to do the work, the self-love work, the healing work, the ability to be vulnerable and find love and be open to love. She had to find her love from within first, and then from there she was able to attract Steve into her life. And now they're getting married, and I'm going to be their officiant. So I'm so excited. I'm so honored for these women in my life that are part of this community and I'm supporting. And they're getting married. They're having babies. We just had another baby be born in our community. Hopefully I'll be sharing pictures soon once I ask if I can. But love happens. Love happens when you do the work, that willingness to do the work. So what your symptoms might be telling you, that it's time to do the healing. It's time to do the deeper work. And with that, love is possible. So I'm Dr. Kelly Martin Shue, Amazon best-selling author, speaker, and transformational coach. And in today's sharing, I'd love for you to share what it is that you are committing to in your healing and love journey. Signing off.